on LinkedIn on Mondays, but when I woke up this morning, I felt that it would be necessary to do a post or do a live about this very important topic, which is comparing ourselves to others. So, when I was scheduling this live, I said, if you do this, please join. And I've conducted thousands of coaching sessions since 2014, actually over 4,400. A lot of the style of coaching that I do is laser coaching sessions, which result in 15-minute increments, in case you're wondering or trying to do the math. That's the story behind it. So I do longer coaching sessions as well, but a lot of my coaching has been done in the 15-minute increments. And like I said, over 4,400 since 2014. One of the most common trends that I see and hear are people comparing themselves to someone else. Okay. Now that's a problem because when we're comparing ourselves to others, it's actually hurting us. Now, I know you get that, right? You know you're not supposed to be doing that, but then why do you do it? So, what I thought I would do today, and I hope everybody can hear me, what I thought I would do is give you some more details on what you're doing to yourself specifically that's not good, and three things you can do in place of those so that you can stop this habit because it probably is a habit. Now, we have all compared ourselves to others, and I have as well. Okay. However, no one is going to, wave a magic wand, follow you around, and say, are you comparing yourselves to others? Are you comparing yourselves? If you are, stop. It's up to you and it's up to me to hold ourselves accountable, right? It's up to you to hold yourself accountable. Even if you have a coach, you're with yourself 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So you need to be accountable to yourself. Sure, you can do the you can do the check ins with your coach, but no one is going to be able to follow you around and do that, nor should they, because it's your life and it's your habit that you have to break. Now, maybe you're lucky. Maybe it's just an occasional thing that you do when something triggers you. Then you probably are in a better situation than a lot of people because perhaps you check and recognize when something triggers you, and then you're able to divert or reframe your attention. Okay. So here's what I'm going to start out doing. Like I said, I want to explain three things that are hurting you when you compare yourselves to others. All right. The first thing is when we compare ourselves to others, we undermine our strengths. It makes everything cloudy and kind of less than, because we're kind of we are, it's not kind of, we're putting ourselves in like a corner when we're comparing ourselves to others and we're kind of lifting them up, right? The second thing that is a problem is it hurts our mental health. No secret there, right? And ever since COVID, it's even more magnified, in my opinion. But when we compare ourselves to others, it can lead to increased anxiety. And if we already have anxiety, I have had a history of anxiety, severe anxiety attacks in my 20s. It can make the anxiety even worse. It can deepen the depression. Okay. That's not good because, again, it makes us seem like we're not enough. We're not good enough, like the other person that we're comparing ourselves to. In a lot of cases, you know, we're comparing ourselves to people that we don't even know and never have met. Okay. So maybe if you hear me say that, maybe that will kind of get you thinking like, wow, I really should stop doing that. The third reason, and the third thing that not the reason, but the third thing that we're doing when we compare ourselves to others is really hurting ourselves and lessening our chances of really creating and developing authentic relationships. All right. Because we're not really able to develop authentic relationships with people if we find ourselves being jealous or being kind of insecure or resentful, right? Because that's not an authentic relationship. So three things, in case you're wondering, three things you can do instead of comparing yourselves to others is, first and foremost, before I get into the three things, first and foremost, taking 100% responsibility for your actions, the habits, the beliefs that you have will definitely give you the power to do these three things. Okay. And these are just three starting things. But I wanted to give you some action steps. And my hope is that you will take one of these as a challenge if you feel that you do compare yourselves to others, so that you can stop doing that. All right. So the first thing is practice meditation or mindfulness if you don't already do that. Now, some people don't really understand what mindfulness is. I didn't understand what it was either when I learned about it. So, really, it's a form of meditation and awareness. But when I had my severe anxiety, my go to was meditation. So, perhaps you could start there. Just taking some time to think, taking some time for yourself. If you have 20 minutes a day, I would suggest that you sit quietly for 20 minutes a day. If you want to start out at 5 minutes, that's fine too. But during this time, and schedule it so it happens, during this time, sit there and don't force any thoughts, but kind of pay attention to the thoughts that are coming through your mind. And one thing that helped me was looking at my thoughts, or recognizing my thoughts as movie credits. So I was trying not to like grab on to every thought, because that can create more anxiety, right? But just kind of be aware and see what comes up. Okay. And then perhaps this example, this comparing yourself to others may come up. If it does, that's the perfect opportunity for you to sit quietly and figure out, what is it that triggered me to compare myself to others? And, you know, what can I do to divert my attention so that you're not repeating that habit? So, the first thing, like I said, is you can either do mindfulness or meditation. But if you're not familiar with either term, I would recommend you just start with the meditation and set your timer, even if it's just for 5 minutes a day, and see what comes up. You will be amazed at the ideas if you stick with this and continue to increase the time. And I was fortunate enough to have Deepak Chopra as a professor when I took a course up at Northwestern. And he taught a meditation. Now, I had already been doing meditation for almost 20 years at that time because of I needed it. It saved my life because I had, like I said, severe anxiety attacks in my 20s. I was actually at a point where I couldn't drive for a couple months because I was afraid I was going to have an anxiety attack when I was driving, because when I was driving, I had anxiety attacks. So it was just a vicious circle. I don't know if any of you can relate. It wasn't fun. So I had already been, like I said, meditating for almost 20 years. And when I was in a class, I was in the Executive Scholar program up at Northwestern. That's where I met Deepak Chopra. He was one of our professors. Now, the idea of sitting quietly for you, could it may sound crazy. And believe me, if it sounds crazy to you, you're not alone. I sat in a classroom with 39 other individuals, and there were a handful of people, probably about 5 to 7, that, meditation was new. Now, keep in mind, this was back in 2014, so that was 9 years ago. Uh, some people had never meditated before, didn't really understand what it was. And the responses he was getting from the Deepak was getting from the 5 to 7 people were, I don't have time to do that, which is a very common response. You might even be thinking that too. I don't have 5 minutes to sit there quietly. Or maybe you have a lot of children running around, at when you are at home, and you're like, how can I have, how can I even schedule 5 minutes? Do yourself a favor and make it a point to schedule 5 minutes. Get up early or stay up a little bit later, but perhaps you get more benefit doing it first thing in the morning. That's what I would recommend. But anyways, for that handful of people that were just in amazement of, I've got to meditate, and Deepak didn't tell them to meditate for 5 minutes a day. He said you need to meditate for a minimum of 20 minutes a day, which really is ideal. Okay. When I started out, I did 20 minutes a day. And then I did it twice a day because I needed to. I needed to do it first thing in the morning and then last thing at night, just to, work through my anxiety. But anyways, Deepak told the people that said they didn't have time to meditate once a day, that he said, if you don't have time to meditate once a day, then you need to meditate twice a day. And I'll never forget that, because it's very true. If you cannot find the time to take for yourself so that you can be of even more service to others, but first, more service to yourself, right? We have to take care of ourselves. And I'm here to remind you that. So try it, even if it's just for 5 minutes a day. See what comes up. Okay. Secondly, I'd like you to pat yourself on your back more often. Celebrate those, big and small successes, because they're all steps, they're all contributing to your growth. And really, what I want you to do with this, focusing on patting yourself on your back, I want you to start recognizing your true worth and your true potential. There are other exercises I do with my clients, and perhaps I'll do another session on this if someone would like. But I really believe because you're with yourself all the time, you probably don't realize your full potential. And you probably don't realize everything you've accomplished up until this point. So some of the exercises I've done with my clients have been really eye-opening, because, usually they say something like, I had no idea that I've talked to over 12,000 people in my speaking career, or I had no idea that I won 19 different awards over the 15 years. Because why do you think that is? Because they never sat down and tallied it up, to reflect on that. And since they didn't do that, they were not aware of everything they had accomplished. Okay. So I really, really want you to start rewarding yourself by just saying, good job, you know, or write it down on a piece of paper. Because if you are comparing yourselves to others, then that tells me that you're really not appreciating everything that you do in the world. You probably don't think it's a big deal. It's kind of like if we have a specialty, like when I was with AT&T and I had all the AT&T lingo, and it was really hard for me to communicate, try to explain what I did with, selling systems to people that weren't in the telecom business. It was really difficult because I had all the lingo. And, I didn't really understand everything that I knew either until I reflected on it and really, recognized and patted myself on the back for, doing a good job and learning that completely different language. So uh, it's important. Okay. Otherwise, I wouldn't be asking you to do it. So, there are exercises. And like I said, perhaps in another live, I'll give you some tips and cues on what you can do so that you can fully appreciate yourself. Because, uh, start with this, start, recognizing like, what are three things that I'm really grateful that I was able to do today. Or, if someone gives you a compliment, I used to have a that a girl list. And then I also had a folder in my email so that if somebody sent me a testimonial or a compliment, uh, I would put it in that folder. And at that time, I needed to have my documentation so that I could help contribute to my performance appraisal when I was with AT&T. So the easiest way for me was to collect those and put them in a folder, so it was easier and I didn't have to like scour through my email at that time. So you can do something like that too. But honor yourself. And, if someone says, hey, that was a great presentation that you gave on the TEDx stage, or hey, that was a wonderful virtual workshop that you gave. Just don't be like, oh, thanks, or don't say, oh, it was nothing. Recognize it and pat yourself on your back. Okay. Third, this might be tough for some people, but what I'd like you to do is limit your time on social media when you find, maybe through meditation, okay, or sitting quietly with yourself, when you find that something triggers you. You need to set some boundaries, put some blinders on. This is not about being unreal. This is about self-preservation so you can get to the bottom of why you're comparing yourself to others, okay? Because obviously you don't value yourself enough. So we need to make sure you are valuing yourself enough. All right? You're here for a reason. And sadly enough, when we get stuck in this comparison circle, everyone outside of us is seeing the worth and the value except for us. So we can serve people at a greater and much higher level if we start seeing ourselves for who we really are and what we really do and contribute to in this world. Okay. So limit the social media consumption with the topics that trigger you. Okay. I don't know what triggers you. So that's going to have to be something that you come up with. But, like, for instance, sometimes I feel sad, when I'm seeing other people found their person, they're a couple, they're thriving. Okay, sometimes I feel sad. Okay, that means I need to limit my social media consumption when it comes to stuff like that. Doesn't mean I'm not happy for them. It just means that if I'm feeling a little bit low, some days it doesn't even faze me. Okay. But if I find myself that I'm triggered by it, then I need to reframe that thought and then tell myself, through a positive affirmation that I will find my person or my person will find me, you know, whatever is calming and that brings you peace. Okay. But in order to get through that, you need to identify what triggers you so that you can put the blinders on or set the boundaries. Because the reason why I say that is because if first triggers you and you don't have a process in place to reframe or redirect yourself, then what's going to happen? You're going to continue that comparison cycle. I had a track coach when I was in high school. His name was Floyd Deaton. Unfortunately, he passed away a couple years ago and was young. I think he was in his early 60s, but he taught us so many valuable lessons. And one of the ones that I thought I would share with you today, I think will help you because it's kind of it was related to comparison. And I remember we were freshmen, uh we were state champions. We had a long history of I went to high school, Catholic high school in West Virginia, and we had a lot of champions on our track team and all the different sports teams. But as freshmen, when we would pray, we would be setting our intentions, and we'd say, we're praying so that we can beat Wheeling Park, or so that we can be first. And he taught us, he corrected us, and he taught us to pray for the opportunity to do our best. So, because he taught us that reframed our beliefs so that it made sense. I mean, it sounded odd at first, because why wouldn't we want to be number one? Why wouldn't we want to beat Wheeling Park, who was one of our rivals? Not the only one, but one of our rivals. We were Catholic school. Wheeling Park was a public school. We had a lot of other Catholic schools too that we had some rivals, but he taught us, no, we pray for the opportunity to do our best. And that perhaps could be a prayer for you or a mantra that, when you're setting your intentions every day, which you should be, and actually you should be doing a little bit of work at night beforehand so that you can come into the day and just ease into it with grace. But perhaps your daily intention could be, praying that you have the opportunity to do your best. And I feel that that gives us peace, knowing that we are praying for the opportunity to do our best and we are committed to doing our best. We have to stop comparing ourselves to others. It really is hurting our success, and it can actually be the reason why we're stuck. If you're trying to get to a different plateau in your business, or you're trying to transition out of your executive career into your own business, or maybe you're just trying to transition from, one executive position to another company in the same industry, whatever it is, if we continue to compare ourselves to others, that will stifle our growth. There's nothing good about it. I know that, sometimes we may think that it can help us, well, if we're competitive. I used to say that. I used to say and think this, well, I'm competitive. No, there is no one else like you. Therefore, no one else can do or say what you say in the way that you say it. So I encourage you to take action on one of those three things. If you really want to be, overzealous, you could do all three, but really consider setting your timer and starting at 5 minutes a day for meditation. That's one. Okay. Number two, focus on everything that you're doing right. Okay. That doesn't mean that you put the blinders on and the rose colored glasses and you're not recognizing, where you can do better. But it just means that you need to get in the habit of recognizing your strengths more and get out of the cycle of comparing yourselves to others. Okay. And then the third thing, and you only have to choose one because you will see how, you know, being aware first that you're comparing yourselves to others and wanting to stop doing that. So, doing one of these three actions will help you. And the third thing, which I think all of us should do on a regular basis, is avoid the social media that's triggering you, if it is social media. And then as you become more in tune with meditation, you will be able to determine what is triggering you and you'll be able to manage through that. And there are other strategies. These are only just three small action steps. And I would love it if you do decide to take on one of them. Let me know how it goes. All right. So I hope this was helpful to you. Please also let me know any other ideas that you have that you would like to see me present live, either on a LinkedIn Live or LinkedIn audio. I'd love to be able to show up and share some strategies that have helped me in my journey to where I am right now. And I really think that it's important that we help each other, because I'm learning every day. And I certainly don't know everything, and nor would I ever pretend to. However, what I do know is I used to compare myself to others on a regular basis. It was clearly a habit. And at first, I remember justifying it, being like, well, I'm an overachiever, I'm goal oriented. And in my case, when I was comparing myself to others, it wasn't that I was, wishing them not to do that. It was beating myself up as to like why I'm not where they are, you know, or how did I get myself in this situation kind of thing. So it was all reflected inward, but it's very, very detrimental. Like I said, for when I was telling you about the three effects and the three reasons, why we shouldn't be doing it. But it really does affect our mental health and it just keeps us, in a spinning cycle. So even if we, have tools and we have a plan, in a lot of cases, the anxiety, the depression, and then feeling not enough, which is something, that we've all struggled with, I believe, from time to time, doesn't help us get to where we're going. So I want to help you to get where you want to go as quickly as possible. So if you do find yourself comparing, if you find that you're comparing yourselves to others, please take me up on one of the three action steps. And if you know other people, or if other people have said that they compare themselves to others, please share this LinkedIn Live with them so that they can learn a little bit more about why they shouldn't be doing it. Because You know, with the thousands of coaching sessions that I've conducted, I've had so many people tell me that they think that's normal. Well, we all compare ourselves to everybody. And that was eye-opening to me to really see that. Like, that was just one of those things, like, when people say, "Well, it is what it is," they were so used to doing it, it was a habit that needed to be broken. But what they didn't realize was how detrimental it was to their success. So, I hope this served you well today. I hope that it starts your week out with a little bit more awareness if you happen to fall into that category. And maybe you don't even do it all the time, but even if you do it sometimes, perhaps if you reframe that and you were able to figure out the triggers, then what's that goal on the other side of losing that terrible habit? So, let me know if you do decide to take me up on one of those 3 action steps, and most importantly, let me know how it goes. Okay? Goodbye, everyone.